Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. Let's get to it.
Anthony for three. That one goes down, and the game is tied.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
The Yankees are champions of baseball.
Shaking and baking right here on the neophyte.
Trying to close the show. She was doing a great job of feeding. That is over.
Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks? Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks?
Game over. World Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
All right. Some are going to look at this game and call it I think they were calling it on the post game, a character win, right? It was another tight game, and after losing a tight game against Chicago the night before, you win a tight game against Brooklyn. So, some of you are going to look at it in that perspective. Welcome to the show, audio only, but it's on all platforms tonight. Still, I'm going to look at it because it was another bad sign. And until the Knicks really put together an all-around performance against good competition too, I'm going to be down on this team for a little while. This is just, we're almost a month into the season, and things just aren't going the way that they were supposed to go. This team needs fixing. Something's wrong, something's off, and I'm not just going to continue to chalk it up as a slow start. This is a new team. They have to find chemistry. They've got injuries, etc. It's not the same team. The identity, the grit, defense, the killer instinct, all that stuff. It's like you're watching this Knicks team, and there hasn't been a single game this year, whether we went into it against tough competition or easy competition, where you can look at it and say, okay, this is an easy win on the schedule. We haven't been able to go through a game yet and say that, because something is very off with your New York Knicks this season. I should say, because I've been saying this, last year's team was different. Last year was all about the grit, all that defense, etc. This year's more about this great 5-out offense with some star power, which I do think that is more of a fit if you're trying to make a title run. However, I think the question becomes, did we lose too much of that grit? Did we lose too much defense putting together this roster? And that's what I'm worried about. It's becoming nightly where the Knicks are giving up 120 plus points. And last night, the Knicks did not have Karl Anthony Towns. They did not have Deuce McBride. All right. And they got off to a good start. But Brooklyn and Cam Thomas got red hot in that first quarter. Second quarter comes, Brooklyn cools off from three-point land. And then Tibbs goes with the all-rookie lineup in the second quarter. He's got three rookies out there with, I think it was Hart and I forget who else. It was Hukporti, Kolek, and Dadier out there. So they closed the half. Third quarter, the Knicks go on this 7-0 run behind OG Anunoby. They go up by as many as 21 points, and then the fourth quarter comes. And it was straight humorous. And I mean that in the most contemptuous way. The Knicks just let their foot off the gas. Again, there's no killer instinct. You're playing a bad Brooklyn team. They're not that good. The Knicks had an early 19-point lead in the fourth quarter. It had a lot of stuff going on. You got a lot of Nets players throwing hissy fits. There are some interesting calls along the way. A bunch of reviews, a lot of stoppage. Both sides make runs. Brooklyn goes on this 16-3 run. It looks ugly. But the Knicks answer back. And I thought this was the nail in the coffin when Brunson knocks down a big three. And then on the following possession, Hukporti, off of a Brunson assist, throws down a big-time transition dunk. That seemed like, okay, this is it. We ended the Nets run. That was their little cute run they were going to go on. And now we can end this game. No. Then Brooklyn goes on another run. It gets tight again. Anunoby fouls out after a review. But the Knicks answer back strong again. Campaign, I think it was, who draws a big offensive foul. I think Mikal Bridges drew a big offensive foul after that, if I can remember correctly. Brunson knocks down multiple clutch baskets, multiple free throws. And then some more madness ensues where the Knicks officially blow it. With 12 seconds left, Dennis Schroeder knocks down a corner three-pointer to give the Brooklyn Nets a 1-point lead. But Brunson responds 6 seconds later with the game-winning three-pointer in front of the Brooklyn bench to give the Knicks a lead. And with 6 seconds left after that, Brooklyn goes down the court, and Mikal Bridges ices the game with the big block at the buzzer on the other end. And so the Knicks win their second cup game at Madison Square Garden, 124-122. So they're back at 500 again. We'll see how long that lasts. Cam Thomas dropped a game-high 43 points for the Nets. The Knicks, you had some good box scores all around. Your second unit was productive. Hukporti, Dadier, Campaign. OG had a big night, 25 points. Mikal Bridges had a big game against his former team to quiet the noise, 22 points for him. Defensively, he was better, but it was nice to see him knocking down shots offensively. The three-pointer was going in off of movement, dominating the mid-range as usual. Josh Hart with a near triple-double again, 14, 9, and 9, playmaking from the middle of the floor. Jericho Sims, some good solid defense. Switching, he was a +6 in the box score, 7 rebounds. Brunson had a big-time performance in the clutch, which we'll talk about in just literally a minute, not even. But I can't help but to remain pessimistic on this team until I see an actual complete win or just string together some wins for once, because this is getting a little concerning, this defense. But it was a win, so I don't want to spend this episode making it a pessimistic episode. So we're going to talk for a little bit. It will be a short episode. We'll talk a little bit about the really just Brunson, and we'll talk a little bit about Hukporti, and maybe wrap it up after that, because I'm also watching, as I record this episode, I'm watching UFC 309, which is pretty good. Yeah, so it was just, it was tough to stay positive after watching this game and the way it did, despite the big shot by Brunson. But Jalen Brunson, I'm going to hand him the game ball because he's been so good for this team. And he was good once again. 5 game balls now on the season. That's second on the team, first among the starters, tied with, I think, Anunoby? No, tied with Towns. No, I'm sorry, Towns has 4, so he has the most game balls Brunson does among the starting unit. 37 points, 7 assists, 12 for 20 shooting, 3 of 8 from 3, 10 of 12 at the free throw stripe. He was awesome. It was kind of a quiet 37 points for a while there, but then he explodes in the fourth quarter with 16 points. You know, he was the only Knick with multiple field goals in the fourth quarter. You know, listen, you hear because of that, people are bitching about hero ball. You can't win with, quote unquote hero ball. Listen, this is how it works. This is modern NBA. You're going to go to your star players. You're going to go to them in isolation at the end of games. That's how this has always worked. That's how it works, especially in the playoffs. The usage ups even more. I don't know what this weird obsession is with Knicks fans, or maybe it's a lot of basketball fans, but definitely among Knicks fans, they want these teams to be like the 90s Spurs. It's a ridiculous idea. You have to know your personnel. Your best player is your point guard, and your point guard is a bucket getter. So he's going to shoot the ball a lot. He's going to isolate, and your offense is going to be relying on him. That's how this works in modern NBA. Down the stretch, you're always going to rely on your best weapon. He's the captain. I don't know why we're getting complaints about that. Ball movement doesn't win. Buckets do. The game's about buckets. I don't care how you get the buckets. Get the buckets. And a lot of the time, you're going to get those buckets by creating them yourself. That's how this works in a superstar-driven league. Ugh. But it was great to see Brunson just go off like that. You know, big-time fourth quarter. Every time he would miss a shot in crunch time last night, he would respond the very next time down with a make. That was a trend I noticed. And that's Brunson to a T. You know, he had a big transition finish off of a Josh Hart assist going coast to coast. He had a tough driving finish between two big defenders in Johnson and Finney Smith. He had the and one finish in the middle of the lane during a three-point game. And then he hits the game winner from the triple threat on the corner there with no dribbles. So, good to see him bounce back like that, man. Among all the NBA, Brunson's 30th in baskets in the clutch. That's the last 5 minutes of a 5-point game. He's 20th in points. And he's also first in the NBA in points and baskets made in the final 10 seconds when tied or down 3 points at the most. So that's pretty cool. Small sample, but that's pretty cool. On the season, Jalen Brunson, you look at the numbers, and for as much as he struggled, they're pretty good. They're still efficient. He's struggling a little bit more than he usually does from three, 38%. He's usually above 40%, but, he's shooting 47% from the floor. He's averaging 25 points per game. He'll be fine. Let's head to break. When we return from break, talk about a guy who we haven't yet talked about on the show. Excited for this part. Stay with us. Be right back.
Hey there, thanks for listening in so far. If you enjoy this episode, please give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much. You can follow us on social media as well. On Instagram, we're at BD4Pod and at Rob J. Carbone. On X, we're at BD4Pod and at RJCBD4. And on Facebook, we're BD4. If you're interested in our website, just go to www.bd4blog.com. You can subscribe to our blog on there right on the front page. Just like on the podcast, we cover Yankees, Knicks, and MMA. Also on our website are the links to the different platforms for the podcast. Thanks so much.
All right, welcome back to the show, episode 745 of BD4, the second game ball among the second unit. I'm going to go to Ariel Hukporti, man. I really liked what I saw from him, especially in the first half. But I liked what I saw from rookie big Ariel Hukporti. Obviously, this is his first game ball of the season. In this game, finishes with 7 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 blocks, and he plays 30 minutes. As soon as he came in late in the first quarter, provided immediate activity. He makes a really nice pass to an assist, or he made the assist, a short roll assist to Campaign. Next possession down, he slips the screen into space. Then he runs DHO with Josh Hart, who eventually draws 2 fouls off it. He scores off of a 2-5 pick and roll with Mikal Bridges. Gets a big block on Williams. And that was all in the first quarter. You know, throughout the game, he had a nice take to the hoop. You know, possession where he puts the ball on the floor. Doesn't get the finish, but I did like seeing him put it on the floor from the 3-point line. Takes a couple steps and he gets there. Had the slam dunk in this game off the Mikal Bridges assist. Obviously the one off the Brunson assist. He had an assist to Mikal off of an offensive rebound. Bunch of other plays. There was that one possession which really stood out to a lot of Knicks fans where he was just switching on to everybody. And because he can move his feet very well and because he's got a lot of length, that's just one more very switchable weapon on a roster with quite a few of them. You know, and you saw in this game, Tibbs from the get-go switching pick and roll a lot more without Towns on the floor last night. You know, but there was a possession where he's guarding Schroeder, then he switches to Williams. He's guarding Williams, he switches to Finney Smith. He guards Finney Smith, he switches to Williams or somebody else, and then he blocks him. You know, it's just really impressive stuff. I thought that, one second, I'm watching the UFC at the same time as I record, so bear with me. Got some comparisons that I really liked. He got some Isaiah Hartenstein comparisons after the game. I was scrolling Twitter a little bit. Saw a few of those. You know, I think that's because of his touch away from the basket with his passing and his screening. He slipped a couple screens. The floater game, you know, very iHeart-like, which is going to be important. You know, you need good screeners for Jalen Brunson to get some good space going downhill. And I actually like the way Hukporti and Brunson looked together. They played quite well together. You know, late in the second quarter, they ran a pick and roll on the right elbow. Huck slips the screen. Brunson makes the pocket pass. And then Hukporti with a tough finish on Ben Simmons. I think they'll play well just because Brunson, we've talked about this in the past, you know, doesn't throw a ton of lob passes when he's playing with Mitch and Sims, who are athletic bigs. They play above the rim. But when he plays with below the rim bigs, the chemistry is usually a lot better because he's a small guard. And Hukporti's a guy who is able to go low. So I think they have a chance to provide some good synergy together. And if eventually, I'm not saying this is going to happen now, but if eventually Hukporti does start to get minutes as the backup big when the Knicks are healthy, you know, it might be a good idea to see what it looks like staggering Brunson with the second unit as opposed to staggering Towns with them. But I don't think that's anywhere near the future. I think this is just temporary until Towns returns because, you know, he did make some rookie mistakes. You know, he had that free throw line jumper that he took and missed early in the fourth quarter after not being able to get that entry pass in. Then he makes a bad pass again about a minute later from the high post, ends up turning it over there. He also had some tough defense in the second half. You know, to be fair, Tibbs ran him very heavy. He put him back in the game with 3 minutes and change left in the third quarter and played him the rest of the way. So he played about 15 plus consecutive minutes. And you could tell he was a little gassed and out of sorts. The Nets were, he was hard hedging a lot on pick and rolls, and the Nets were just exploiting that. But yeah, unfortunately, I do think Tibbs is going to continue to ride with Jericho once Towns is back, and hopefully that's tomorrow. Just because it's simple Tibbs logic. He's always going to trust the veteran over the rookie, just because of what he knows. Like there's a safety there, right? It's more of a higher floor as opposed to going with a rookie with upside who are very prone to making mistakes. If you're going with the veteran, you know what you're getting in a sense. And Jericho's been fine. I don't think he's been that bad, especially the last few games. So I understand it. I know Knicks fans are going to go crazy the second that Towns returns and Hukporti goes back to the bench and he doesn't play 9 men again. But a lot of Knicks fans on the internet can be irrational. They think everybody's the next big weapon. I remember a few years ago, this G Leaguer we had, Kenny Wooten. Everybody, including myself, thought he was going to be this next athletic big who comes in here and just becomes this next Knicks center. Like Kenny Wooten, Iggy Bruzdegas, another guy, big wing type. Hell, Jericho Sims, right? The guy everyone wants out the door now. When he was a rookie, everybody wanted him in the picture. There was promise there. So I think we need to temper expectations. We do it with everybody. We did it with Obi Toppin. Guys, Tibbs knows. The NBA veteran head coach knows what he's doing. Let's trust his process a little bit more than Twitter. But hey, I like the Hukporti minutes. I thought Huck looked good, and so good for him. And so that's really it, man. I'm not going to get too deep into this episode. I don't want to go diving into the X's and O's for this game just because a busy day, so I didn't have time to really put a full episode out. But up next, you got tomorrow night, 7 p.m. game back at the Garden against the Nets for one more. So we'll see what happens there. Hopefully that's a win. It's this team needs to start stringing together some victories for once. So we'll see. Let's head to our last break, and when we return, we're going to wrap it up with our trivia question, and that will be that. Stay with us. Be right back here on episode 745 of BD4. Studio 69 Productions is a podcast production agency created by Leo Rodriguez to allow content creators to market their podcast. It's an online platform that will market your podcast or any other project that you're working on. Get in touch with Leo Rodriguez from Studio 69 Productions. You can find Studio 69 Productions on Instagram at Studio69NJ. Studio 69 Productions, where dreams are heard and born.
Thanks for listening to BD4, where there is no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA, Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion.
All right, welcome back to the show, episode 745 of the podcast. Let's wrap this up with our trivia question, which is, for this episode 745, it's a true or false. True or false, the Knicks have swept the Nets in the season series the last 2 years. Is that true or false? The Knicks have swept the Nets in the season series the last 2 years. All right. Let me know the answer, true or false. Yeah, that's it. Nothing big. Just a quick 25-minute episode for this one. The Knicks beat the Nets 124-122 in a game that should not have been that close. But they did win, so we'll save we'll save the real analysis for the next game. I'll have we'll be back with video on YouTube and Spotify And we'll have a deeper, normal 30 to 40-minute episode for that one. This one just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. It didn't feel like a win. I'm usually the guy who, a win is a win. But, man, that sucked. Just hasn't felt good this year. Hasn't felt like a good season, and I really don't think it's going to be a good year for the Knicks, but maybe I'll be wrong. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate it, as always. And I'll see you in 746. Knicks Nets. Fuck the Nets. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.
Hey there! If you stayed the entire way through, we thank you immensely for it. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you come back for the next episode real soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, download these episodes, and share them with your friends as well. BD4 is a 5-star podcast simply because of you. And we'd like to keep it that way. Have a wonderful day. Go Yankees and go Knicks!